fight's not over.
Stop the fight!
People.
Everybody, I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king. Kill everybody. Ah!
What's up, guys? Lane here with Brook Bets. Got my guy Carson with us as well. What's up?
Yes, sir. Another pay-per-view.
Yeah, we get the BMF card. Got some exciting fights for you guys. I think there might be one or two added. We are doing a little bit early filming here, so there might be a fight added late, which then you'll just see our prediction on Instagram or Tapology. I'm gonna sound like a broken record this card because I'm gonna talk about elevation a lot and its effects on the last card in Salt Lake City. So you might hear that a lot, just to let you know now before you complain mid video. First fight: Matthew Semelsberger versus Uros Medic. Taking Medic here as an underdog. Medic is coming up to welterweight from lightweight. A pretty long and lanky lightweight, very good with his range management, and I think that he's just going to be able to have a little bit more bounce and point fighting here than Semelsberger has. And if you're Medic, I think game planning for this fight is not as hard as it may seem. I think you know what Semelsberger does. He sits on the back foot and he waits for the big counter shot. So just preparing for that is I think a big part of the strategy. So I like Medic to take this one by decision. Semelsberger is pretty durable. I know Medic is a finisher, but I think Semelsberger can withstand a lot of the punishments. So yeah, give me Medic.
Yeah, I think like you said, Semelsberger is super tough, super durable. In that Jake Matthews fight, I mean, he knocked down Matthews 3 times and he couldn't get him out of there in that one.
Knocked down Jeremiah Wells 2 or 3 times too.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think he's been knocked down in the UFC yet, Semelsberger. But yeah, I just see Medic being a lot faster here with that jab moving in and out. And like you said, his range management is really good too. So yeah, interested to see how it'll look on the scales, but I don't think that'll affect him too much moving up a weight class here.
Yeah, I think the scary thing that Semelsberger does is that, I mean, he's not very great with the jab or anything, but that right hand just right down the middle, there's no telegraph on it. It just sits right there out in range and it just snaps the distance real fast. So that's kind of his way of winning. It's on that counter punch. And if you watch Jake Matthews fights, the dude doesn't really keep his hands up to protect his face a lot. A lot of his movement is how he's protecting his face. Those knockdowns. Jeremiah Wells is just, reckless, and Semelsberger had some bad fight IQ in that fight, sitting on his back the entire round after getting a knockdown. Just not really the strategy you want to see out of a fighter. He's pretty consistent with what he does, but I think the performance that I reference back to is the Alex Morono fight. I think Medic could emulate something very similar to what Alex Morono did to Matt Semelsberger. And like you were saying, speed in this fight and cardio over the course of those 3 rounds at elevation could be a big deal. So yeah, I like Medic here as well by decision. I will be curious to see what the ceremonial weigh-in face-off will look like in size. So yeah, Medic by decision. Okay, for the next fight we have Miranda Maverick versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Cachoeira coming back down to 125 for this fight. I like Miranda Maverick still in this situation. For the most part, Miranda Maverick, okay, like decent fighter. She, in my opinion, what I see in her is that I think she can out-wrestle the non-wrestler chicks, and that's kind of her way of winning. And when you watch that Jasvicius fight, you just see that Miranda struggles to out-grapple a chick who actually knows something. So I think that her strength and the fact that Cachoeira's hips are horrible, she cannot defend, she cannot sprawl, and a lot of what Miranda likes to do is grab onto a leg and use her foot to trip from the backside to turn him. And I think that Cachoeira is going to have a hard time dealing with that. I think Miranda can out-wrestle this one to a decision. There's also a chance of a submission in there. Although I do think Cachoeira holds all of like the cards on the feet. I don't know how you feel about that. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I definitely think Cachoeira will have the advantage on the feet. One thing in Maverick's last fight that I hated was her throwing like slow naked kicks, and then Jasmine would just hit her with a 1-2 every time she did those, and it was just horrible fighting. If that happens here, I think Cachoeira can hit her a few times and maybe put her in a dogfight. But yeah, I think Maverick will be able to find takedowns in this fight and ultimately win a decision here.
I think the number on Cachoeira is pretty appealing from a betting perspective, just because if this fight gets up from the feet, she just has so much pressure, and as soon as she's just going to be on Miranda Maverick, it'll be questionable what happens, knocked out Ariana Lipski, and even there's Jian Kim cut her up in the last couple seconds, even though she's getting outboxed a lot of the fight. Like you're saying with those kicks too, those kicks that Miranda Maverick throws, they don't have a lot of damage behind them or a lot of power. It's just a lot of...
Oh, they were so slow.
Yeah. And that's a lot of women's MMA stuff. Cachoeira just likes to load up on that right hand. So, yeah, definitely something to watch out for there. But yeah, got to stay with the wrestler here. Miranda Maverick. Think that she gets takedowns in each of the rounds. So, take her by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Jake Matthews versus Darrius Flowers. Taking Jake Matthews here. Darrius Flowers on short notice here. Just got his fight canceled with Miguel Baeza. And that fight would have been very close. But in this case here, Darrius Flowers, pretty decent fighter. I think that record, he hasn't fought the best opponents on some of his LFA fights. But, this guy is like really short and stocky and does have some power in his hands, and it's a little bit concerning. He has decent hips with the wrestling, and I don't see him landing the takedowns on Jake, but he still can put on a competitive fight here. And I think Jake can just outpoint people pretty well. It didn't happen in that Matt Semelsberger fight where a lot of people got pissed off because they parlayed him, but this dude does do a good job of just touching and moving. And like I said, the Matt Semelsberger thing, he kind of throws that right hand from a really good position. It's hard to see coming. So it knocked down Jake Matthews a lot of times, but I do think Jake's experience here will really pay off in the UFC. So I like him to win a decision here.
Yeah, especially on short notice for Flowers too. Like you said, he's short and stocky, carries a lot of muscle. I think elevation will hurt him here as well. So, and he hasn't been to decision many times before. So, a lot of his fights are ending in round 1 or 2. So, I think Matthews with the experience and better cardio, I like him to win this fight. He's got a pretty good lead left hook, Matthews. He throws that way too often, though. It's like his go-to.
I think Flowers, he does slow down a little bit with those big movements, but then he's also low volume. He might just sit on the outside and let round 1 drift by in a lot of this fight. And in that Contender Series fight was just kind of a big underdog. A lot of people expected him to get ran through, but that slam, dislocating the shoulder of his opponent, kind of just let him on to get a contract. Kind of a weird way to get a contract. I guess you deserve it because you won by a finish, but just not a very normal thing you see. Can't discredit him, though. Jake Matthews, better striker on the movement. Going to be hard for Darrius Flowers to hold him down, too, for a round, I think. So, Matthews by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have CJ Vergara versus Vinicius Salvador. Taking CJ Vergara in this fight. CJ Vergara is nothing special, but he does bring some good cards to the table, and I think one of those is just durability. I can't find many of these fighters that can eat all the punches and keep moving forward and maintain their gas tank and do all these things super well as CJ Vergara. He can grapple. That last fight of him running around with Daniel Lacerda, chasing him. Good example of being able to survive the storm and Daniel Lacerda, I know he's not the best fighter, but he is very dangerous in round one. And I think CJ Vergara just can outlast this fight with his cardio and pace against Salvador. Salvador just didn't look very good in his UFC debut, getting held down for a good majority of the fight for against Aldemirano. And I think Vergara can find a knockout late in this round. I think Salvador is going to be really sucking wind when this fight gets late. So what are you thinking here?
Yeah, definitely. For Salvador, man, he's just so unorthodox, and he does like those big movements like Michel Pereira. I think a lot of those big unorthodox movements will wear him out, especially early on, and then later, I don't think he'll have enough gas to be throwing that stuff. So, as long as Vergara can withstand the early storm, I think he can finish this one late.
Yeah, I mean, Salvador swings his punches so wide. They come from like his hips, and it just leaves his chin wide open. It's going to give CJ Vergara like every instance to shoot a takedown when he wants to. And I also just feel like the last time we were in Salt Lake City, UFC 278 for the Usman-Edwards card, a lot of these Brazilians slowed down. I don't think their body acclimates well to the environment. I think that the elevation and maybe the less humidity up in Denver is like an adjustment. And, you know, you saw that with Jose Aldo and Paulo Costa and some other people on that card. So I think that Salvador will have a little bit of a struggle here with CJ Vergara. But yeah, give me CJ Vergara, knockout round 3. Okay, for the next fight, we have Roman Kopylov versus Claudio Ribeiro. Taking Roman Kopylov here. This guy, I don't know, he looked incredibly big in his last fight versus Punahele Soriano. Those guys faced off, and he just looked a lot bigger. He's much more technical on the feet. If you just take what Claudio Ribeiro did in his first 2 UFC fights, what's happened on the Contender Series, if you've watched film before it, this dude's got 2 punches, a left hand and a right hand, and they come from the same angle, out wide, swinging in. Kopylov, I just think he looked very technically good versus the Kiriko, and Soriano, the body kicks, the body work was nasty. His punches were like thudding on the mic, you could hear. I think that technically he's just got the edge everywhere, and he paces a fight better, and I think that he can take this one for a round 2 knockout. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, for Ribeiro, I mean, I think the only thing he's really good at is leg kicks. I mean, like you said, his hooks are super wide. I think Kopylov will be able to capitalize on his really quick jab. The one thing that worries me with his jab, Kopylov, is when he brings it back, he brings it back towards his hip instead of his face.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think he'll be able to get out of the way of those wide hooks and be able to jab him up. He worked the body really well, like you said. And yeah, I mean, he's willing to mix in a takedown here and there. So I like him a lot here to find a finish.
I think Kopylov really struggled too with the Darrius fight, just thinking about the takedown in that entire fight. He was just waiting for Darrius to shoot, and he kind of had a hard time getting going with his striking. And then in the other 2 fights, he kind of just felt clean on the feet and kind of flawless in a lot of ways. Ribeiro slowed down a little bit with his Al Hassan fight, and I think in this one he could easily slow down after his big action punches. Although he does do that funny thing, and we've talked about this before, but when this dude, you guys already know probably too, but when he walks out from the locker room to the octagon, he's just gonna dance the whole way in, whatever that shuffle thing is, shifts all his weight one way, shifts all his weight the other. I don't know what you'd call that, but
yeah, I mean, he might be gassed by the time he gets inside the octagon. So
he's an interesting character, to say the least. So yeah, give me Roman Kopylov. I think that he gets it done inside the distance. Okay, for the next fight, we have Trevin Giles versus Gabriel Bonfim. Taking Bonfim here. I think the main component of this is It's to me a really good striking match for the time I think it's on the feet. Trevin Giles has a really good lead hand. I mean, he's a phenomenal jab. If you've watched, any of his fights, you've seen that jab. And his lead hook is pretty good as well. He's a very well-rounded fighter, good wrestling. But I know one of the main things about him, I think, is that I wouldn't say he's super chinny because he's getting knocked out by power punchers. But even in the Preston Parsons fight, he got knocked down, rocked like once or twice from big punches there. And I think Bonfim, national champion boxer in Brazil, with his pressure and the punches he wants to throw to knock people out. I mean, you watch that Contender Series fight with Trey Waters, he's throwing to kill. And against Lazez, he came to kill right away. I got to pick a knockout in the first round for Bonfim. I think that pressure, that pace, and that bounce to try to get that knockout is going to happen. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Bonfim comes out swinging. He tries to get people out of there quick. But I am a little worried for him. He in his last fight, he just left his chin up there and he was swinging wildly. And his leg got chewed up a little bit in the 40 seconds or however long it lasted. But I mean, Giles doesn't really throw any leg kicks. Yeah, like you said, he's got a good jab and good straight. So, yeah, but Giles, he's been knocked down a few times, and if like Preston Parsons is knocking him down, I think Bonfim can as well, and probably find a finish early on here.
Yeah, and just Giles isn't really known for his knockout ability. It's not saying that he has bad power, but he does just kind of like to stick at range more. And Bonfim's going to be in his face the entire time until this fight is over. I really like an under here, but that also plays into Bonfim. I did parlay him with Bobby Green. A little spoiler alert there. But I just feel like Bonfim's pressure, and you were just talking about this earlier, Bonfim does leave his chin out there to be hit, and because he's so eager at that knockout, he leaves his chin up in the air, and that is concerning for a fight like this. He wants to hunt that so bad, and he wants that left hook so bad, he can leave himself exposed up on the feet, and that's a scare. And I think genetically, too, there's something where guys who have just a little bit lower shoulders and a longer neck, it's just harder for them to protect their chin. So, yeah. But I still think Bonfim gets it done. You got any more thoughts here?
Yeah, he's finished every single one of his opponents, so, I'd be interested to see if it goes longer, how well his cardio holds up, especially at elevation.
Very true. Bonfim, KO, round 1. Okay, for the next fight, we have Derrick Lewis versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I typically am not a guy who picks Derrick Lewis, but I'm swinging back his way for this fight. I think the fight style is just hard to predict with him because he's the type of guy where he just waits until that big punch comes and you just have to wait to see if it happens. And in this case, I think he can rebound. This is an attainable fight. You're facing Tuivasa, who he had on the verge of a knockout at one point, to Sergey Pavlovich, who is crushing people, and then to a wrestler you pretty much can't beat if you're Derrick Lewis. So I think that this is a good turnaround. This is a striker matchup. The scare, obviously, would be De Lima kicking out the lead leg of Derrick Lewis. And I think Derrick, though, even sometimes with those leg kicks, he can survive them and still throw heavy punches. For some reason, I'm just feeling it this time around. I'm feeling a Derrick Lewis knockout in the first round. What are you thinking?
Yeah, maybe he times one of those leg kicks and is able to land a right hand. Like you said, it only takes one for him. Marcos has only been knocked out once, I do believe. He's been submitted quite a few times, though. Right. Obviously, Derrick Lewis probably won't be doing
Derrick
that.
Lewis going to hit him with that Von Flute choke or something?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he's been working on that jiu-jitsu. But, yeah, it only takes one for Derrick Lewis, so I say he times one of those leg kicks and able to knock him out.
Now, I know I just said round 1, but now I'm thinking about it a little bit more. It's either going to be like a round 1 or a round 3 at the 1 minute left mark, a knockout. What are you thinking? What are you feeling between those two?
I'd say most likely round 1.
Yeah, I mean, the concern for this fight is it is at elevation. The one thought I have is that Derrick Lewis might not do nothing until that 3rd round, and then they start going for it late in round 3 because he doesn't want to gas out. Like, his biggest fear is gassing out. I've seen his fights a million times. And Lima might just kick him the entire time. But, I don't know. I think this one's attainable. I don't know how much Derrick has in the gas tank for fighting anymore. Doesn't look like he wants to be there, as much as... I mean, he doesn't even like fighting. He said it before, but I just don't know how much he's got left. I must say this one might be a good wrap-up for him, possibly. So, yeah. Derrick Lewis knocked out.
And it's not in Texas, so...
It's not in Texas, and he's not facing Cyril Gahn or any of these people. All right. Lewis KO round 1. Okay, for the next fight, we have Stephen Thompson versus Michel Pereira. Gotta pick Wonderboy, the striking man. Michel Pereira as well. He's been looking very good in his fights, and mainly because he's not doing backflips as often in his fights anymore. The last time I think he did one was that Nico Price fight. And his guy is huge. He's got a lot of muscle. Again, we're in Salt Lake City at elevation. And I think Wonderboy, with that last performance versus Kevin Holland, doesn't slow down as much in this fight. And I must say he gets a knockout. I mean, just look how much damage he did to Kevin Holland in that fight. Like, round 4 was just 8 head kicks that landed on Kevin Holland. And Michel Pereira looked fairly tired at the end of his Ponzinibbio fight. Think about that, but then think about that fight. Using his muscles at elevation, I think he slows down even more. And I think the end of round 2, he's going to be gasping for air, and Wonderboy will be able to pour it on. So, yeah, give me Wonderboy. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I like him here. I think Pereira will be doing too much unorthodox movements and gassing himself out, and I think Thompson will be able to capitalize on him. I mean, Thompson's only... of late losing to people out grappling him, and if it's on the feet, I think he's piecing up Pereira here.
I mean, yeah, that darting into range. Pereira's big thing too, like we said, size advantage. Wonderboy takes away the size advantage from all of his opponents because he just keeps that massive distance between him and them. So, cutting it down with a kick that kind of karate blitz punches. I think it gives an opportunity for Wonderboy to find a finish here. So, yeah. Give me Wonderboy, the nicest motherfucker, by knockout round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. Gotta take Kevin Holland here. Chiesa, a bit of a one-trick pony, and a lot of people know that. And a lot of people know that Kevin Holland has struggled with... existing wrestlers before, but at 170 being so big, and Chiesa's pretty big for welterweight as well, but I think that Chiesa, he's on this break right now, and we've seen Kevin Holland actually escape some bad positions from some grapplers. Okay, Hamzat just has unbelievable wrestling, everyone knows that, but the Granby rolls and the stuff he was doing there were pretty tricky still for Chimaev to deal with. And then again, just gonna say it again, or at elevation, the wrestler will probably get tired using more of his muscles to try to hold down Kevin. I think a knockout comes in the second round. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, Chiesa coming back from 2-year layoff. I think Kevin Holland at this weight class, he's looked a lot better. He's been able to make some improvements in the grappling department, and we all know his stand-up's really good. I think he uses that length really well sometimes, and can find a finisher.
Yeah, I think this Chiesa, what I think about with him on the feet is he's so stiff. There's not much happening other than, like, if his opponents don't know about how he can get a takedown, you know, he probably gets outstruck by most fighters. But just the case that he is strong on the cage grappling, and the scare for this fight is just Chiesa getting back control, because he can just delete a whole round or, you know, end the fight from that position. He's very strong. But I have a feeling Kevin Holland's just going to pull this one off. So active. Probably the most active male fighter in the UFC over the course of the last 3 years. I think he has to be. But yeah, give me Kevin Holland. Knockout round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Gotta take Bobby King Green here. Came off a weird last fight with that headbutt. Somewhat was close up until that point. But the boxing that Bobby Green's going to bring to this fight. And for Tony Ferguson, on a losing streak, 5 straight losses. And looked remarkably different versus Nate Diaz. I just think it's going to be an uphill battle for him to get back into. I don't know how you come back and look better from that Nate Diaz or Michael Chandler fight. I think that guy's gone. That was in the Michael Chandler fight even. So I think Bobby Green can just outbox him to a decision. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Ferguson kind of lost it in that after that Chandler fight. I mean, he didn't look good against Diaz at all. Maybe it's a change of opponent, but I mean, yeah, I mean, he just did not look good at all. I think if Diaz is boxing you up, I think Bobby Green will do the same. So give me Bobby Green. Most likely by decision, too. I mean, he's not really finishing anybody.
Yeah, and I don't really... Well, he did finish Jared Gordon with a headbutt. That was pretty impressive. But Tony Ferguson, for the most part, too, just... I don't think the wrestling's going to like play in here. I don't think he's going to get that. Something else to think about. Tony's going back down to 155 for this. Kind of like a super big red flag. You get knocked out by Chandler. Did look good in the fight. You go up a weight class 3 months after you get knocked out. I don't know why. And then you're coming back down at an older age, looking withered. And all that, like, I don't know, weird training that he was doing in the past, kicking metal poles and all that. I think that all that shit, like all of his knee injuries, all that stuff just coming back to you it's not good. It's not going to play out well. And just with how hittable...
he needs to hang it up.
Yeah, with how hittable he is, I don't know if this is trying to be a retirement fight, because it's not a very friendly retirement fight pick right there. Maybe we see some El Kakui, but we'll see. I got Bobby Green, like I told you guys. I parlayed him and Bonfim together. I just think they both got the advantages. So, Bobby Green by decision. Okay, guys, for the co-main event, we have Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira. At first, when this fight was announced, I was just thinking Jan Blachowicz. I was all over the name, but now I'm thinking Alex Pereira. Watching back film, watching some of the wrestling things of Jan Blachowicz and Alex Pereira. And I just think that, for one, something we've talked about with Alex Pereira, the weight cut down to 185, obviously it's draining, and it certainly affects your chin to some point. And that Izzy knockout, I think a big part of it was the weight cut. And Jan hits very hard. This guy's also aging. And if you watch the Ankalaev fight, there weren't too many clean punches in that fight. A lot of it was just going shin to shin. And I think going shin to shin with Alex Pereira, I don't think that's going to happen as much. The Southpaw versus Orthodox incident, that will cause it more often. I think that in this case, it'd be hard for Blachowicz to outpoint this sized kickboxer who's actually going to weigh 205 pounds, unlike Izzy, who weighed in at like 200 pounds. So I'm not going with a Pereira knockout. I'm going with a Pereira decision. I think Jan Blachowicz can withstand a lot of the storm here and survive this fight, but it'll be very interesting. This fight could go many different ways, but I like Pereira to outpoint him here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, this could go so many different ways, and the odds have it as a pick 'em right now, so they think that as well. I think Blachowicz, he throws pretty good leg kicks, and he checks leg kicks pretty well too as well. So I don't know how well that'll play out, but Pereira, he's just so big. You see, he's got a 2-inch height and reach advantage here as well, and he's the one that's moving up. And
it's gonna be more than like a. It's gonna be like a. I think like a 4-inch height advantage because he is like 6'6". He's not. I don't think he's even 6'4".
Yeah, I want to see what that face-off looks like. But anywho, yeah, I mean, I think Blachowicz is super tough, super durable as well. So I don't know if Pereira will be able to get him out of there.
And how much Pereira got himself knocked out in his most recent fight off of being too aggressive. So, I mean, are we even going to see Pereira like unload like he tried to with Izzy? That was his downfall of his last fight. So he might just incorporate that jab, that kicking at range. And like you even said with Blachowicz, if he's going to be trying to check kicks, this is a world champion kickboxer who could easily just switch that kick to a kick to the body, a kick to the head. I mean, Pereira's head kicks are, like everyone says, he doesn't turn his hips over on him, so you can't really see them coming. In terms of the grappling, which is like a huge question in this fight,
right?
People I think are just kind of thinking that Blachowicz will out wrestle Pereira, and I think if that takedown happens, for sure, like it will. But Blachowicz also got takedowns on Israel Adesanya with like a 20-pound weight advantage or more against a guy who really doesn't wrestle too well. Pereira here will weigh the same amount, and Blachowicz just isn't really known for his grappling. He gets taken down versus Ankalaev, Rakic, Teixeira, then gets takedowns versus Izzy, and then prior to that fight, if you guys just look at the stats, the last time he landed a takedown was like 2018 before the Israel Adesanya fight. So it's interesting to see how this one will play out. I think Pereira is also so far at range in the striking that cutting down the distance in a takedown can be really tough with a dude who stands that far away, especially at 40 years old. You're trying to, shoot a double leg. It's just a little tough. So I think Pereira's gonna upset some people here. So what do you any more thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, could upset a lot of people too if he doesn't find a finish either. Him by decision. I'm sure there's pretty good odds for that.
Yeah, I mean, I bet the over-under is set at 1.5 in this fight, and I don't really feel like betting the exact number, but I do like just a sprinkle bet, maybe Alex by decision. It's probably going to be like plus 800. And they said Blachowicz being pretty tough, rolling shots really well. Like Izzy couldn't catch the dude clean in the entire fight, and he was doing a pretty good job of punching Izzy clean. So I think Pereira just stays at a range, though. We're going to see a little bit more kickboxing match that Blachowicz won't be used to. Super excited for this fight. I wish they just made it into a title fight. And again, elevation, Salt Lake City. Blachowicz slowed down quite a bit in his Ankalaev fight. He didn't slow down as much in the Rakic fight, but in the Israel Adesanya fight with the wrestling, he got pretty tired. Pereira, a little bit tired, from that Israel Adesanya first fight from the grappling, but I'm interested to see what will happen there as well. So, yeah,
I mean, do you think 3 rounds versus 5 benefits either one of these? I don't know.
I don't know. It's a tough tell. I think if it was just a striking match, for sure Pereira, but
right.
Not the grappling. I don't know. All right, Pereira by decision. Okay, guys, welcome to the main event prediction. Before we state our prediction, please drop a like, subscribe, comment down below your picks, thoughts on our picks. Main event, Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje. I'm a Diamond man. I've been a Diamond man. Honestly, I'm not even the biggest fan of Justin Gaethje. I know I'm throwing a little bit of heat out here, but I think Justin Gaethje's a little bit of a casuals fan. I mean, if you're a Justin Gaethje fan, I'm sure anyone watching this video is not a casual because you're probably not coming into the deep depths of YouTube to come watch some retards talk about I don't know, a BMF belt. But I think his following is weird, Justin Gaethje. Like, the UFC, I feel like, will do anything for this guy. He's fighting. They fight Charles Oliveira in his like hometown area, in his home state, and then we're doing the BMF belt in Elevation where Justin Gaethje trains, and it doesn't even make sense. Like, no one thinks of like the BMF, like the baddest motherfucker. Where should we go to do this fight? Let's go to Salt Lake City, because that's where all those bad motherfuckers are. It doesn't make any sense to me. And it's totally, I think, targeting an advantage towards Gaethje for the UFC. It's like, we'll give the guy with the cardio advantage at Elevation the fight here. So it's a little bit tough, and I think that I would make Poirier a bigger favorite in this fight, but that elevation factor pulls back some of the chances of him winning. I like Poirier's boxing better, and I like him by a third-round knockout. Now, I've been speaking too much. You can speak.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably bet on Poirier if it wasn't an elevation, and he'd probably be a bigger favorite, like you said, too. I really like him here as well. I mean, the one worry, is Gaethje's leg kicks. How will that play out? But in their last fight, Poirier was able to time one of those leg kicks, and I think that was the ultimate finishing sequence where he landed a big, I think it was right straight, and then finished him off. So, yeah, I like Poirier. There's going to be a lot of damage accumulated early on, so I think third round would be a good finish round here.
I think Dustin's so good. I mean, I don't think either guy's really gonna gas out per se, but I think Dustin's so freaking good, and Jack Della Maddalena does this as well. Is his punches are like not full strength all the time. Like, he knows when he wants to throw as hard as he can, and he throws about most of his punches. It looks like 70%, whereas Justin's throwing everyone like 90 to 100% of power. And I think Dustin's more
Gaethje just overswings way too much.
Right. He's got that clip in the Charles Oliveira fight where he throws his left hook and then falls down like a toddler. It just looks goofy. And then Dustin, of course, rolls punches, I think, a lot better. I mean, he had the high-level striking matches with Conor where he was able to roll some of the strikes better. He can see those big hooks coming. And, if you even look at the Fiziev fight with Gaethje, was getting outstruck until Fiziev slowed himself down. And that's not chopping away at Gaethje, but he was getting outstruck by a still a smaller guy, and Fiziev is a phenomenal kickboxer. Like you said, accumulation of damage, though. I mean, I'd probably bet this fight to start round 2, just because they seem to always make round 2s. I bet that in the last Michael Chandler fight, Dustin Poirier fight. Oh
yeah, that was a sweat.
Oh man, the last 10 seconds were like them killing each other. But Dustin Poirier, I think I looked at it. You might have to refresh this stat for me. He's gone to a second round in however many of his last UFC fights. So there hasn't been a lot of first round finishes. Also,
yeah, the only first round finish I really see is the doctor stoppage with McGregor.
It was a doctor stoppage. Oh, that was a horrible accent. But Poirier as well. I mean, go back and just look at the resume of his last 10 to 15 fights. It's absolutely wild. Just the names on that list. I'm not saying Gaethje's isn't great as well, but he does have a couple duds in there. James Vick, Cowboy Cerrone at an old age, which led him to a title shot. Kind of goofy to look back on, but I like Poirier. I like that left hand. I like the scare, like you said, the kicks possibly. Maybe the motivation on the Poirier side, because you got that McGregor money. Who knows what he's got exactly left in the tank, but I love this guy. Honestly, one of my favorite fighters. I always am surprised when people don't like Dustin Poirier, so I don't know what your thoughts are.
I mean, I don't hate him. I think Gaethje's a little strange.
I'd say him and Charles are on both. They're both my favorite light lightweights. I love them equally, but like both those two in the UFC, I'd have to rank up in like the top 5 favorite fighters. Yeah,
Right.
Gaethje's talk is a little bit strange too, a little bit brain dead, but way it is when you fight like a crazy man. He's also gonna take that BMF name to this fight, so he'll probably accumulate more damage because he wants to be, kind of that label for that BMF. So, other than that, these are the picks, guys. Okay, guys, to recap the betting for Aspinall versus Tybura, UFC London, came off with a good rebound here, plus 2.34 units. Let's hop into it. Starting it off, Joshua Hulabau. I actually thought Josh did pretty decent in the stand-up, but very clear that Lerone Murphy just held a large physical advantage in strength and in size. Hulabau couldn't get his takedowns, even though it looked like he had positions where he could land them, and Murphy just looked unbelievably big and heavy on top, and Hulabau couldn't escape. But in the stand-up, it was competitive. A little bit of misstep there for a bet, but Hulabau is a good dog. He's slightly undersized. Next one, Tom Aspinall versus Marcin Tybura under 1.5. Like I said, you guys, we got this line extremely early on BetUS when they misplaced it. Hammered it for 2 units. No shock there. I mean, Tom Aspinall ran through Volkov. No one's really doing that. And Tybura lost to Volkov. He was swinging punches, and Aspinall's just so fast, man. That right was right down the pipe, right on the chin. And it perfectly placed. A little bit fast of a stoppage, but at that heavyweight caliber, if you're just getting beat up like that, they're going to stop it. But 2.8 big units won there. Moving down further, got lucky with the Joel Alvarez by finish happening there. I thought he was slowing down. He wasn't using the bottom position to get back up at all. He kind of sat there too long. The headbutt led to the finish. I couldn't tell how out of it Mark really was, but any headbutt like that's gonna have a impact. Maybe you've ever been headbutted before. It's very you don't feel good in your head, obviously. Further down, Davey Grant, Daniel Marcos, over 2.5. Like I said, technical strikers go in these point fighting matches, and Daniel Marcos, I didn't think he won the fight. I thought Davey Grant did win. Marcos is very technical, did not want to let Davey Grant knock him out, so he didn't throw a lot, and that's just the way the fight went. I thought Davey Grant won 1-3. Sorry for all those people that lost money on Davey Grant. Shitty. Down further, Chris Duncan and Yanal. The underman Chris Duncan, I mean, it was a good performance, you have to say, but for a guy who he had one arm for over 10 minutes of the fight, it's just a little bit disappointing to not see a finish, especially when he's stuck on the cage. He can only throw that right hand, and for the most part, they're overhands. Like, why not throw like a left hook when he's up on the fence? Because he can't counter left hook with you. It's your only advantage. He can't really throw back, and didn't continue to kick at the arm either. So the under didn't play out. I gotta stay away from these Chris Duncan unders. He didn't throw the combos together on the fence, and Yanal also a little bit stubborn to get out of there. There's some good knees and stuff. Filho and Perez to go under 2.5. Easy money, man. Like I said, Perez comes out guns blazing, and Filho had that grappling advantage, so instantly saw Perez try to go for a finish, almost got it. And then Filho came back in the fight with some decent strikes himself, and mounted up to something, and got that submission. Perez just gives up ground position way too easily. Finally, this one really annoyed me. The Brian Barberena Makhmed Muradov fight to not go the distance. It felt like Barberena wasn't his usual self, and I just mean that with like pressure and pace. It felt like he was just sitting back and really not engaging too much. And then Muradov, of course, using the grappling, but didn't even like attempt a submission that entire time with how much bigger he was, the back position he held. and didn't commit to anything. He had 2 knockdowns and couldn't follow them up with finishing strikes, and that was a little bit annoying. But, tough loss there. I thought that Mahmoud could get the finish, but he's so scared of gassing out after that Gerald Meerschaert fight. Other fights, Molly McCann getting dusted. Nothing too surprising there. I said it was submission or KO. Submission for Storolenko or KO for McCann, and Storolenko, got the fight to the ground. Boom, it's over. The Wood-Feely fight, incredible. Andre Muniz, can't trust that guy on the ground at all. It was not very good of a card. We make a lot of these heavyweight main events, because, they want to make it a 5-round fight because Tom Aspinall might compete for the title soon, although they just finished so quick. But I still can't believe that BetUS put that line out there like that. Tom Aspinall's a first-round finisher, and he's gonna be until he maybe faces somebody who can move at the same speed as him, and clearly a lot of these heavyweights can't. So easy money there on the main event, and like I said, guys, stay tuned for the bets for UFC 291. The winning streak starts now. Peace!
I know. It doesn't matter, I'm from the trenches. I'm built like this. The old doubted me said I couldn't do it. The old said I couldn't do it. Look at me now.